Well, it's amazing what you can fix with a reboot. I must say, in terms of fixing things in my world, a reboot fixes them more often than just about anything else. So the streams are up and running. Let's see. Oh, you know what? I never got on Zoom.
Yeah, I was about to say that we need to share.
I'm missing a key piece here. Let's see if we can start it up and see what happens.
I think every day is a reboot.
Oh my gosh, it is a reboot. Every day is a brand new awakening, isn't it? We start out the day with an awakening on a little micro level.
Yes, indeed.
Right? And it's a reawakening for our life on a macro level, because every day is an opportunity to awaken to your higher self. Timing, yes. All right. Adriana's pointing at her wrist where a watch would be and letting me know that I need to hurry. So I'm hurrying. Here I go. And back here. And get the Zoom pictures in so everybody can see Tom and me and Dad. Almost there. All right. Look at these big, beautiful people. Put Tom in the right spot. Tom is now in the right spot. And Adriana's there with her beautiful daughter, Vera. Hi, Vera. So cute. Yes. All right, and I'm going to call this all good enough and get into this lesson 250.
Can you share the screen, please?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for that reminder. Okay, here we are, lesson 250, the last one of special theme 3. What is the world? Tomorrow we start a new special theme. It's all about sin, so you'll definitely want to be there for that one, huh? And today, lesson 250, let me not see myself as limited. I definitely don't want to do that. So, last time through of special theme number 3, what's the world? Yesterday, I read from A Course in Miracles, the main text of the book, where everybody's got the same kind of text that they're going through. Today I'm going to read Tom's notes on that special theme. So if you're interested in seeing what I'm reading, you'll have to follow on the video or get Tom's book, Understanding A Course in Miracles Workbook Lessons, How to End the Blame, Shame, and Guilt with Love and Forgiveness. And I've got links to that in our A Course in Miracles.live that I send this video out to, so if you are interested you can go there, and if not you can relax and close your eyes and rest while I read to you. What is the world? The world as we know it is a world of false perception. The world was born out of the idea of separation and will continue to remain as our provisional reality as long as the mind that birthed the world continues to value the thought of separation. When the thought of separation has been changed to the thought of true forgiveness, the world as you perceive it will be seen differently by your mind. The new viewpoint for seeing your world will lead to the truth that the separation is not real. By changing the thoughts that the mind values, the belief and effects of the thought of separation and its related world will disappear. All errors that arose from those thoughts will also vanish. The thought of separation, excuse me, pardon me, the thought of separation is the powerhouse that made the world of false perception seem real. When this thought is gone, the effects of the belief in separation are also gone. The world of false perception is an attack on God. This world symbolizes fear. What is fear but the absence of love? This world was perceived to be a place where God's love could not enter. It was a place where we could imagine that we had been exiled from the safety and protection of a God of only love. It becomes a place where sinners can neither hide from or be punished by a judgmental God of wrath. Here, in the world of perception, we can pretend that we are separate from God's love, separate from God, and separate from our source. Bear with me for a moment while I slide these guys around. Here we go. All right. This world is a place where we can pretend we do not know what we are. We have lost the knowledge of our true identity. This loss of certainty with our connection to our source provides the mechanism for the false perception to seem real. When this thought is gone, the effects of the belief in separation are also gone. The world of false perception is an attack on God. This world symbolizes fear, and what is fear but the absence of love? This world was perceived to be a place where God's love could not enter. It was a place where we could imagine that we had been exiled from the safety and protection of a God of only love. It becomes a place where sinners can either hide from or be punished by a judgmental God of wrath. Here, in the world of perception, we can pretend that we're separate from God's love, separate from God, and separate from our source. This world is a place where we can pretend we do not know what we are. We have lost the knowledge of our true identity. This loss of certainty with our connection to our source provides the mechanism for illusions to arise. Knowledge is based on certainty. Perception is based on uncertainty. Perception is someone's judgment or opinion, not necessarily the facts. With the loss of certainty, mistakes become possible. Our senses were born to verify our ego's belief that its judgments are correct. Both our senses and the world of form are designed to prove that the separation is real. So what does all this mean anyway? A Course in Miracles says that this world is not real. This seems to contradict our senses and leads to an argument over whether the non-reality of this world is true. It also leads to the idea that if the world is not real, it's of no consequence. If so, what do we do within this illusionary world would be of no concern. If you kill, hate, steal, love, forgive, or help another, it wouldn't matter, since the world is not real. No matter what you did, it would have no consequences, since it would not change the truth of what you really are, and you would always remain perfect, whole, and complete. If there are no real consequences to our actions in the form of a reward or punishment, what does it matter how we behave towards one another? Our physical senses are designed to confuse form for content or purpose. We look at the form as something we value rather than the purpose behind the thought form. A Course in Miracles states that the world is false perception born from the thought of separation. But what does separation really mean? When people talk about separation, they mean that there's a space or a gap between two parties and that those two parties are not one thing. This is a proper interpretation based on form, but not based on content or purpose. The senses and the world your senses observe deal with the form, but not the thought that caused the manifestation of that thought to appear as some physical form or object. The thought that birthed the form is what we need to focus on. When we mistake the form as separate from the thought that manifested it, we fail to realize the causative nature of our own mind. It now appears as if there are outside forces that create your world, that your mind is not the causative power behind your world. The thought of separation is not the idea that you're physically separated from God. The thought of separation is the idea that there are outside forces that can rob you of your inner peace or that could make you happy. The thought of separation is the belief that you are not perfect, whole, and complete as God created you, and therefore this imperfect creation has needs that must be met by outside forces that you do not directly control. You may have some limited ability to indirectly influence these outside forces so that you can partially control, manage, and mitigate the effects of their independent actions. Yet your belief in separation asserts that these forces have some ability to oppose your will, and that opposition to your desires can affect your own state of being. Separation is the belief that you are at least partially a victim of these outside forces and that your happiness can be impacted by them. The implication is that you're flawed in some way. A Course in Miracles states that rather than attempt to change your world, you should change how you view your world. When you change the purpose for your world will automatically realign to support that new viewpoint or purpose. In our previous discussions, we have cloaked this idea with the terminology of our purpose being either love or fear. In the world of form, forgiveness represents acting in a loving manner and is fear's opposite. Fear arises anytime you believe you lack the creative power to handle a given situation. Fear is really the belief that there are outside forces that can affect your state of being. ACIM is really asking that you change not the form of your world, but rather the purpose that your world serves. Surprisingly, in a world of seeming hate and fear, a world of seeming hate and fear does not have to support your mind's belief in separation. Currently, the purpose of this fearful world is to prove that your mind is an effect and not the cause of your experiences. Yet, you can reverse that thinking. Your world currently acts as your mind's proving ground to confirm that there are outside forces that can make you happy or sad. Perceiving ourselves as separate, we believe we are not totally responsible for our own happiness. We value the things of the world because we believe something outside of ourselves can make us happy or sad. It's important to note that our belief in separation supports the idea that outside forces can make us either happy or sad. Many spiritual types Oh, those spiritual types. Sorry, it gets me every time. Many spiritual types do not value this world as a source for their happiness. Silly guys. Instead, they view it as the cause that prevents them from being happy. That's not the kind of spiritual type we want to be. Many spiritual types believe that only by departing from this world, through the physical death or renunciation, they can escape to the promised land. That's with a capital P and a capital L. Promised land. This belief supports the thought that there are outside forces that can either make you happy or prevent your happiness. Both beliefs are equally disempowering, and they support and reaffirm your ego's belief in separation. Here comes my favorite paragraph. Grace. Grace is the acceptance of the love of God in a world of seeming hate and fear. Grace is accepting the power of your mind to interpret the events that swirl around your consciousness in a way that empowers your mind and supports your inner peace. Grace is the acceptance that God has given you the gift of mind. Your mind is the source for your experiences. Because you've been given the gift of mind, there's nothing outside your own mind that can rob you of your own inner peace or happiness. The Holy Spirit uses this world's belief in separation to teach that lesson. Within the control of your mind is the power of interpretation. You can get to give the meaning to all that comes into your awareness. You can either choose to interpret the events and circumstances with fear and love and forgiveness. Adriana, because I shared the screen late, I messed up the part of the stream, so I can't share the screen. But you can see it if you come to one of the streams. You can see all of it. Okay. Within the control of your mind is the power of interpretation. You get to give meaning to all that comes into your awareness. You can either choose to interpret the events and circumstances with fear or with love and forgiveness. Remember that forgiveness acknowledges and rests upon the fact that your own mind, not your brother, has the sole power to affect your inner peace. If you choose to interpret this world of perception through the eyes of fear, you will be confirming your belief that there are outside forces that can rob you of your inner peace. You'll be reaffirming your belief in separation. You will continue to hold grievances against these outside forces. Whoops, I looked away for a half a second and I lost my spot. Sorry about that. You'll be reaffirming your belief in separation. You'll continue to hold grievances against these outside forces for not behaving in a manner conducive to your ego's plan for happiness. If you choose to interpret your world of perception through the eyes of love, you will confirm your belief that there are no outside forces that could make you happy or sad. You will realize that nothing can rob you of your own inner peace because your mind is the sole interpreter for all the meaning that you assign to your world. When you forget that fact and a grievance arises, remember the truth, and you'll be able to forgive all and reinterpret your own thoughts with loving eyes, thus reclaiming the creative power of your own mind. You will not attribute a thought form with any creative power to impact your reality. When you give your day over to the Holy Spirit, you're actually asking the Holy Spirit to teach you that there are no external forces outside of your own mind that can make you happy or sad. You're not asking that all the events that transpire within your day be pleasant. Instead, you're asking that all events be seen through the prism of true reality, that nothing outside your mind has any power over you. And I guarantee you, once you figure that part out, it is very pleasant indeed. You're asking the Holy Spirit's guidance in properly interpreting all events to support the causative nature of your own mind. In the world of form, you may still be physically robbed, but you'll know that no one can rob you of your mind's power of interpretation. You alone determine what meaning you will assign to that event. When you associate yourself as mind and not the game token called the body, you no longer believe your safety rests in the preservation of the body or the things of this world. The mind knows that it alone is responsible for its own happiness. Excuse me, let me read that again. The mind that knows that it alone is responsible for its own happiness is not affected by a world of seeming hate and fear. A mind that values this world as the source for its own happiness or sadness disempowers itself. It makes the world support its belief in separation and makes the world of seeming hate and fear real. Perceiving itself to lack the creative ability to handle the situations in its world, fear becomes that mind's provisional reality. You save your world when you stop blaming the world for the loss of your inner peace and joy. Your world is an effect of your own mind's causative powers of thought. Being an effect, your world has no creative power to change the mind that thought it. When you accept this principle of the creative power of your own mind, you drop the blame, shame, and guilt game that keeps you trapped within the world of time. By claiming responsibility for your own thinking, you free yourself from the thought system of fear that was originally designed to support your ego's belief in lack, limitation, and separation. In eternity, your world remains exactly as it behaved in time. Your world has always been changeless, not in its appearance as form, but rather in its inability to change the creative power of your own mind. The mind that transports its world from time to eternity knows the truth. You are not a body. You are free. You are still as God created you. Nothing sources your experience but you, and nothing can affect you unless you choose to allow it within your own mind. And that is the end of those notes. Tom, those were fantastic notes. I've really enjoyed reading through them for the last 10 days or so. Here's lesson 250. Let me not see myself as limited. Let me behold my higher self, the Son of God, today, and witness to the glory of God's Son. This is lesson 250. So if you've got your book, this is where you can grab your book and you can follow along. I'm reading out of Tom's book, Understanding A Course in Miracles, and Tom adds a couple of extra phrases in here to help make it clear and understandable. So if you're following along in your book, we are close to the back. I'm on 412. Oh, I would be off. Gotta get this right. Here we go. 418. Let me not see myself as limited. Let me behold my higher self, the Son of God, today, and witness to the glory of God's Son. Let me not try to obscure the holy light in my higher self and see the strength of God's Son diminished and reduced to frailty, nor perceive the lacks in Him which I would attack the sovereignty of my higher self, that is God's Son. My higher self is your Son, my Father, and today I would behold the gentleness of God's Son instead of my egoic illusions of a little s self. The Son of God is what I am, and as I see God's creations, so I see myself. Today, I would see truly, with the vision of Christ, that this day I may at last identify with my higher self, God's Son. And Tom's got some notes here for lesson 250. Let me not see myself as limited. Accept the truth that you are mind and not the body. With the gift of mind, God has given you the creative power to source your own experiences. Your mind can co-create with God and extend the love that you are, or it can sleep and make a fantasy world in which you let your ego argue for your littleness. Stop arguing for your littleness. Stop. Accept the truth that you remain as God created you. Get a new guide and follow the Holy Spirit who knows the truth. Use the vision of Christ to look past the body and that body and all the bodies and behold the guiltless and sinless Son of God. Embrace your big S self, your higher self, today. Thank you, Tom. Thank you for putting the effort into making these notes and helping get it clear. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Lee. In regards to this lesson, 250, and this is the summation of our section that talked about the idea of what the world was, and it said that the world was false perception. This lesson here, if you understand it, and if you look at it, you will realize that what it is, it's really the accumulation of what's come before, but it's really saying that we've got it all wrong. We don't realize the repercussions of our misunderstandings of what we are. When we argue, and the lesson is, let me not see myself as limited. When you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. Thoughts are something that kind of come and go. They're like clouds up there, and they pass, and they really don't have any effect on you at all. But thoughts raised to the level of beliefs are now endowed with creative power, the creative power of your own mind, which of course we argue that we don't have. But that creative power of our own mind activates a meaningless thought based on our judgment and elevates it to the level of a belief, and beliefs are very, very powerful. Beliefs become, in physicality, things. We have been taught and been indoctrinated into a belief system that argues for your littleness, that says that you lack the creative power of mind to handle a given situation. And therefore, we start our day, we talked about rebooting, and that a lot of things are resolved when we reboot things. If we could reboot our mind today to exchange the belief that your mind is an effect of outside forces beyond your control, and reboot it so that we understand that thoughts raised to the level of beliefs. Beliefs are really judgments that we place upon those neutral thoughts, become our experiences. The world is a reflection of your thinking. My world is a reflection of me. Your world is a reflection of you. I can live in a same exterior world as you, and my world can be one of fear, and you, because of how you choose to interpret things, can see those same events through the eyes of love and forgiveness. That is the power of your creative mind. Yet we want to argue for our littleness. And if you're in effect, you are only able to react to outside circumstances that you believe have the ability to make you happy or make you sad. This is a major, major problem when we believe we're not causative for our own world, that we do not believe that we have the ability to interpret things. Course in Miracles says that everything out there, in a Ripley's Believe It or Not, is a neutral experience. It's our judgments that color it. It's our interpretations that make it either supposedly good or bad. It's neutral from the standpoint that it has no ability to impact your state of being. You still remain God's treasure. But because you want to argue, or I want to argue for my littleness, I will be able to keep those neutral experiences and transform them into things that support my idea that I am limited. Uh, my life is a good example of arguing for my own limitations. I was brought up as indoctrinated, or if you want to say I was indoctrinated, or maybe because of past experiences, maybe before I was incarnated into this body form, this game token we call the body, I had beliefs that there was something wrong with me, that I was flawed. I was told I was the devil incarnate. I was told that I was a worthless piece of shit. And therefore, because I had transformed those, in the Ripley's Believe It or Not, neutral thoughts, I believed them and I raised them up to the level of belief that said, yes, I was the devil. Yes, I was worthless. No one would love me because of my worthless state. And therefore, that's how I interpreted my world. My world was a world of hate, and I hated my world, and it hated me back. And that's how I treated and believed about my world. I argued for my limitation, and that's how I experienced. Fortunately for myself, earlier on in my teens, I ran across a book that transformed me from a victim into the possibility that we were mind, that we actually had creative abilities. In this case, it was Think and Grow Rich, but it really said that your thoughts, your beliefs are the precursors for your world. Stop arguing for your littleness. Claim your divine birthright. Claim your creative power and use those beliefs now rather than beliefs that limit you. Expand those beliefs. And when you do that and you see yourself as a creative force, things transform. When I believed myself, and this is what people don't realize, everybody talks about relationships and they all want loving relationships. But do they? If I believed that I was not lovable, if we understand that my beliefs become my experiences, what that really condemned me to a life of attracting people that would perceive me to be unlovable. That's what I put on my forehead. I'm a worthless piece of shit. And therefore, I came from that perspective. And even if I were to find someone that saw me not for based on my beliefs, but my true essence, I was not able to accept that idea because in my mind, I was not lovable. I couldn't be loved by anyone. So I would sabotage those things. And the only thing that I thought I could attract and hold on to was someone that saw me that way, somebody that probably wasn't a very nice person. Okay, someone that, in this case, the one that I attracted were people that were uh, perhaps, well, I'll just say people that you wouldn't want to live with. They were downers. They were people that would be uh, a victim of outside circumstances that perceive themselves to have a justification of just drinking themselves to death because the world was a miserable place. That's what I felt I was worthy of attract. And therefore, that's what I attracted. My beliefs that I was flawed, that I was not lovable, meant that the only ones that would be attracted to me or would put up with me are people that also felt that they were worthless. We often look and say, my people, these people need to love me. But when we realize this truth that I'm arguing for my littleness, we understand that my beliefs become the precursors to my experiences. All that I'm able to attract is people that are incapable of love because they're in that same state. Even when someone came into my life that was willing to see me as lovable, I couldn't accept that. I couldn't believe that anybody would be able to see me as something that they would value. And therefore, I'd sabotage any of those relationships until I changed my beliefs. And rather than try and fix other people, tried to fix my own beliefs and upgrade my own belief about myself, was I able to attract, so to speak, people that could see me of value. And it transformed my life because in this case, there were people that were supportive and that could see you as being responsible adult. They could see you as someone other than the devil incarnate. But it was my own belief that gave me permission. When we argue for our littleness, we get to keep them. When we argue for our victimization, that becomes our reality. This lesson here, let me not see myself as limited, says, see yourself as worthy. See yourself as not having to earn someone's love. And when you do that and you work and you have to, whenever you do that, you have to say, what type of person would I have to be to attract that type of person that would see me of something of value, and then become that person. So rather than change others, change yourself, how you view yourself. See yourself as a powerful creator. See yourself as the source of your experiences. And then, as that moves from the level of uncertainty to believability and to a concrete belief that you are God's beloved treasure, that you're worthy of accepting unconditional love, that you're worthy of attracting the type of experiences and the type of people that support the new vision of yourself. This law of our beliefs becoming our experiences will magically transform your life so that you will be able to gain experiences that will confirm those new beliefs, strengthen those beliefs. The most important relationship in time and space is your relationship with God, your source. If you see your God, if you can transform a God of wrath, a God of judgment, into a God of unconditional love, that you no longer are a sinner, that you no longer have to earn your salvation, your world will automatically change. That's why the Course in Miracles says, don't try and change this world. Instead, change how you view it. And when you change how you view yourself, because the law of karma says you're the keeper of your own karmic keys, when you forgive yourself, when you accept responsibility and no longer blame yourself for the past experiences or blame others, when you forgive all, you recover those energy circuits that were plugged into negative beliefs about yourself, and you start transforming your life, yourself, and your world. The world is a reflection of you. If I have a shitty world, so to speak, that's because I have some shitty thinking. That's something that's hard for people to accept. We, as an ego body, don't want to hear those things. We want to say, no, 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 I'm a victim. I'm not responsible. It's not my fault. And those things make our ego feel good about ourselves, and it costs us our happiness. The ego argues for the rightness of why you're a victim, why you're powerless. This world argues that and tells you you are a piece of crap. That's what it's designed to do. When we bought into the belief that we had done something wrong, when we forgot to laugh, the Course in Miracles says, we transformed this world that was designed as our play school to have fun and learn and demonstrate. being love informed, we made it real. We made it a place where we no longer, we lost our focus and became an earner rather than a learner. This world is actually a world, God's will is that we be happy. This world, even in what appears to be a ugly life, a bad life, that is the life that I wish to experience. That's the life that my arguing for my littleness gave me. And in a Ripley's Believe It or Not, happiness, you're really happy when you're demonstrating the values that you believe that you hold. So when I value worthlessness, or not worthlessness, when I value my littleness, my victimization, I'm the most happy, even though I appear to be miserable. I'm actually fulfilling the principles that I've chosen to guide my life. I've said I'm a worthless piece of shit, and therefore I have those experiences, and I'm living those principles. I'm confirming those things. If we ever realize, if there was one lesson, it's this lesson. Let me not see myself as limited. When you reclaim the power of your ability to adjust, correct, modify, embrace beliefs that support your own creative ability, your world will transform. So, the world is unreal from the standpoint that it has no ability to change the truth of what you really are. You are God's treasure. But when you argue for your limitations, you transform this world from a play school into a world of seeming hate and fear. Don't do that. Today, reboot and change the indoctrination from the idea that experiences create your beliefs to the truth that beliefs create your experiences. When you do that, you will transform your life, and this world can become a fun, exciting place. And now, when I argue for being God's beloved child, that's what my experiences become. So, this lesson says, let me not see myself. Let me behold my higher self. The idea that I'm mind, that I'm spirit, that I'm unlimited potential. I am a son of God today, and I witness to the glory of God's Son. The glory of God's Son is that you get to be or imagine anything you want, even in this world of form, and that nothing outside of you can rob you of your own inner peace because you're the source of that. And that is your divine birthright. Let me not try to obscure the holy light in myself, that higher vision that you are source, that you are God's beloved child, and see the strength of your own mind. Do not diminish or reduce that ability. Stop arguing for your littleness. Embrace your divine birthright. Realize that in this world of seeming hate and fear, we're an alien here, but we have the ability to transform our individual world, the world that's our private provisional reality, into a world that supports the beliefs of what I really am. Today, we would not perceive any lack in yourself nor of your world. You don't have to see people as victims and victimizers. Instead, you can see them as people that are following their own beliefs on their own perfect path. We don't have to judge them or make them wrong. Just hold the truth that they are the source for their own experience, that they, like you, are not a body, they are free. They are still as God created them, and nothing can rob them of their own inner peace, including you, unless they allow you to. So go and reclaim your divine birthright. My higher self is God's beloved child, and today I will behold the gentleness of what you are, which is really love in form. That's what you are here is an individuated aspect of consciousness designed to reawaken to the truth that you are the controller of your own inner peace. Nothing can rob you of that because you are not the body. And the illusion, my egoic illusions of the little s self, lay those aside. Reboot to the truth that as a son of God, I am that, and see that in all of God's creations, that we're all part of that oneness that is the whole. And we can just watch ourselves play the individual roles and say, wow, what a creation. Wow, that person wants to be a victim. Ask the Holy Spirit, what should you have me do? The Holy Spirit will advise you. Might tell you to say, boy, that person, you know, doesn't want you to solve their problem, doesn't want a helping hand, wants to wallow in their misery, and just honor that. Say, wow, what a creation. You're a powerful creator. You created that. You know, one time I was wallowing in my belief that my handlers had brought me back from a state of ecstasy and had put me back in this world. And I was begrudging them, and I was moaning and groaning and saying why I wanted to get back to that ecstasy. And someone said, that's an interesting creation. And when I did that, I snapped back. I snapped out of it. I realized that I'm where I want to be. So just be aware that today I will truly see with the vision of Christ, that this day I may at last identify with my higher self. In the vision of Christ, the law of Christ's vision says, never mistake the body for what you truly are. You are a child of God. Stop arguing for your littleness, because if your world seems to be not one that you're completely happy with or satisfied, it's a reflection of you wanting to argue that you're not worthy of having the life that you supposedly claim you want. In reality, you've got what you really want because you want to argue for your littleness. So I'm going to say, create a great day for yourself and your world. Decide today to embrace the truth of what you are. The world, any thought raised to the level of a belief becomes your experiences, becomes things. Create a great day for yourself and your world. Namaste. The God in me recognizes the God in you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. You did a good job of handling my little flub there. I appreciate that. I gotta tell you guys, the idea of rebooting is really a fond one to me. And in case you don't know this, it's based off of the old saying, pick yourself up by your bootstraps. It really comes from that. Something that's essentially impossible to do. If you're standing in your boots and you reach down and you grab your boots and you pull those up, it's not really going to change anything. You can't really pull yourself up. But if your butt's stuck in the mud and your boots are stuck in the mud, you can reach down and grab your boots and get them out of the mud. It comes from this because when we were just starting out with computers, we had one button that we would press, and that very first button would tell the computer to read the card. And there's these punch cards that we used to, that's what computers were all based on, these long manila colored punch cards. And putting in the first punch card instructs the computer to read the next punch card and the next set of punch cards until eventually you're loading a program. And today, that has carried right on through. So rebooting really is taking a fresh look at your world, taking a fresh look at a new set of instructions and interpreting them, perhaps, in a new way. Computers don't typically do that. They're going to do exactly what they're told every single time. But for us, rebooting ourselves is a momentary break where we get a chance to reset and look at the world in a different way. This book has helped me see my world in a much different way. When I stop in the middle because I realize that I'm doing something wrong, Dad, you're tapping. When I realize that I'm doing something wrong, I do my best to change it peacefully, carefully, and consistently to restart with a fresh set of eyes. How can I look at this with peace? How can I look at this with love? How can I look through this through the eyes of Christ and see this in a better way so that I respond in a better way and I bring peace to a situation and I get the best out of everybody that I work with because we take a minute to reboot and see something with fresh eyes and fix it in a way that hopefully makes the world a better place. Thank you, Tom. Go ahead, Papa.
Yeah, I was wanting to come in and use exactly the words you used, but in a slightly different way. And that is to say, when we used to have to reboot the computer, what it does is we had been doing something on the computer and we messed up. We tried to delete something and we hit the wrong button or something and something and something, and it messed the picture up. Okay, rebooting restores us back to the original created program, the original set of rules on those punch cards that you mentioned, Lee, so that we have a chance to restart back with the original powers and properties that the program allows. In the same way, taking Tom's words, rebooting in this case, by changing our beliefs back to what we really are, the way we were programmed, which means the way we were created by God, is to put us into what was the first thing where they were? It was in the Garden of Eden, where everything was given to them, everything they needed. They didn't need clothes, it was warm, so, they didn't even need that. Well, the idea of rebooting the computer is the same thing that we're talking about here, the transformation of getting back to who we really are. And this will lead us into the last of all of, well, I'm pushing ahead, but the end of this book basically says what we are. We have by then studied all of the different ways that we have looked at what that was, how we've messed up our understanding of what we are and what we can do and what we can be. And now we are rebooted to become the true, fully operating, coherent, sovereign child of God as God created us, so that we then can walk as equals, never as a slave to any other child of God. Then the world changes. So rebooting is, like you said, it's a pretty big thing. And it's pretty terrific that we now understand that we can do this any day we choose. That would be just what I wanted to add to what you said, Lee, which was great.
Well, thanks, Papa. Anybody else want to share?
Well, I have a personal issue that's already happened this morning, started at about 5:30. We are seeking, to be honest with everyone, a tremendous amount of money from a funding source to finance the entire redesign and recreation of the country known as Liberia. You've heard me talk about it from different points of view, and in arguing for our littleness, we saw ourselves until today as little people begging for this big group, otherwise known as a bank, to be established in Liberia so that we can be funded. It was fine until what happened was that some people involved on the other side of creating that bank thought that they were more important than what we were. They argued for their greaterness, their superiority, because they had the money, and forgot to understand that we have an army of people dedicated, and I say army, I don't want that to be understood as a conflicting kind of thing, hundreds of people, and congressmen and senators and presidents, president of Liberia, president of the United States. All of these are behind what we're about to do. This idea is of equal size, at least, to the size of the monetary benefits that will come through a bank. Anyone who wants to think that we are the small people begging for money to do this thing for ourselves has basically enslaved us, and we've accepted that we are small and they are big because we think we need them. Well, guess what? Their money, maybe it could go somewhere else, but it wouldn't be worth a damn in Liberia unless this army that we have been growing and building for 7 years had been doing what it's been doing. They are of equal value as a thought, the same kind of thought that Tom expresses when he says that we are not limited. We have, sky's the limit. There's a lot of things we can do. So, as long as we think, and as long as they negate or hang up or disengage or play little games of littler people, we were having difficulty getting to the point that we needed to get to. So, to bring this all together and up to date, we went and argued not for our littleness anymore. We are of equal value. The value of their money is equal to the value of our group and ideas and thoughts and expertise and people that are going to make a real change. With that, they began to see things differently. And this is an amazing thing. This is one amazing miracle that happened to me this morning on the way to this clubhouse room. And it's because Lee reads it every day. Adriana brings her interpretation in. I throw something in. Tom throws some stuff in. And we all get better. And together we argue for our bigness. Because you know what? We are really big people with big thoughts and big dreams and a lot of love. That's what we bring to this table. When we reboot and we see ourselves as starting from that point, there isn't anything that can stop us. So, as usual, my thoughts here turn into a sermon before it's over, but I'm not going to apologize for that either. When we reboot, we can start over every single day with the large thought of who we are. So I'm going to stop now so others can join. Thanks for listening.
I just want to say, in regards to this reboot, when we fail to reboot, when we fail to, as the Course says, decide that we're sick and tired of being sick and tired and decide that there must be a better way and we choose something different, we continue to go on that treadmill of our limiting beliefs and remain stuck. So the only way to really break free is to go back, as Bob Lee said, to the original program, which is before our beliefs in littleness arose, and accept the truth, to change some of the core beliefs about yourself, that you're a sinner, that you're an earner, that you have to get a particular result to be thrown a crust of bread your way. When you change those fundamental beliefs and you go back to the truth of what you really are, it's empowering, and it places the universe on your side, because now you're finally understanding how, even in physicality, how the physical laws actually work. They're a product of our beliefs. They're a product of our own creative energies. And, the physical world is on a mass collective conscious base, but you have a tremendous ability to impact even this physical world. So don't argue for your littleness, then reboot, and you'll be surprised how new opportunities will magically appear before your eyes. Thank you.
I want to add one more thing. My partner in this venture in Liberia is black. He's a black pastor. He's also chief of a clan. Well, he's a chief now. And he literally said to two gentlemen this morning, he says, I'm not going back to antebellum mentality. He said that to them. That makes me, obviously, very, breaks me up. But he said it. And he is 95% blind. So it's not even about what you see. One of his eyes doesn't even have a cornea in it. He's hoping to get a transplant. The other one barely sees. But he makes up for it in his own way. He is truly distinct, unique, one-of-a-kind person who found something in me to love. And I am the beneficiary of understanding what's going on thanks to this Course in Miracles. I can't talk much more right now.
Bob, I missed what he said. I'm sorry. Can you please repeat? Somebody repeat what was
He
said?
said to the two people representing a third person who was not there, representing this person who was going to be funding us, who was making us go and do this and do that and do this and do that so he can bring the bank to Liberia. Vernell said, I am not going back to antebellum times. We will do what you're asking, but we need you to recognize that we are not your slaves. We are not here to do whatever you think. He didn't go on to say this, and that person wasn't there. But the actual idea was, we are bringing to the table a gift of equal benevolence by organizing this country to change it into a better place to live. You are bringing money. Both of those things are of equal value. One is not more sovereign than the other. Those are my words. Because more sovereign is a conflict in terms. It's a conflict. You can't be more sovereign. You either are sovereign or you're not. And so if you seek to be sovereign, then what you're doing is you're splitting. You can be splitting hairs. We know how that works out. You can be splitting anything you want, but it's basically what we always talk about, separation. In fact, Tom, when you started to talk, you used the word explosion. I forget exactly what the context was, but it had to do with separation. The separation took place almost like an explosion. I think you used that word. And what popped into my head immediately was, well, that's what a bomb does. It splits atoms, and you get an explosion, and life is not good for a while. I was in Hiroshima 2 years ago, and I saw what a bomb did to Hiroshima. In some of the narrations I've been writing, I'm looking at everything that we're doing from a different point of view than Vernell. But I can tell you that they come together. That's the real miracle, because that's really what's going on. There's an amazing confluence here, a coming together and unsegregating, even an unsegregating of money to people. That's all that slavery is. Somebody's got the money and they want to get the cheapest way to, they own these fields that they figured out a way to get through now, nothing but finagling, a word that we used to use on the street. They got the land. Well, they still need someone to work it, or else it's useless. So they got slaves, the cheapest way to get the land to produce food or whatever product so they can make a lot of money. That's the nature of slavery, and it's been that way for over 400 years.
Well, that's
In
what we
Africa,
do. That's what we do when we go to work every day.
absolutely. It's what we do every single day. But if you're going to work and you are one of, let's say, 100 people, those 100 people bringing their value is equal to anything that the owner is getting or more. The owner is the one who's not getting all that he could, and he always wants more. That's his viewpoint of life. Each of us is just trying to get enough for ourselves because we're willing to think of ourselves as smaller than we truly are. I read to everybody a few days ago what Marianne Williamson wrote some 35, 40 years ago, I don't know how long ago, we argue for our littleness, and it's time to stop. We are huge. We are worth so much more than we are. And who am I, I've been told, I've been thought about, who am I to think I can go into some country and change it? You're just an architect. You can't do stuff like that. I never once for a moment hesitated in knowing that I'm very capable of doing exactly what Vernell has been asking me to do. He called me a closer. We all sort of know what a closer is. He's the one that closes the deal. And in salesman talk, that's the most important person. You can sell all you want. Maybe you can sell ice to an Eskimo, but are you going to close the deal? And can you show someone else how to do that? You might be able to sell ice to an Eskimo. What about the next person? Well, yesterday, and I'm getting ready to go to Liberia tomorrow, everybody. I'm flying out. Yesterday, I happened to be listening right here on Clubhouse to a room that I've never heard before, never been in that room, but someone who was a leader knew me and invited me in, and I listened. And you know what I heard? I heard a guy, a recording, it wasn't a discussion, explaining straight lining closing. In other words, there's a process that has to be understood on how to close. This morning I wrote it up. Anybody who wants to see it, I can send it to you. I did it in one page. He was taking about 45 minutes and probably still going on, I don't know. But I got the idea of what closing means. Now, that was given to me yesterday. Is that a coincidence? Is that serendipity? Is it synchronicity? Call it anything you want, folks. In this room, we call it a miracle. These things all work together. They conspire to help me remember that I am a child of God. You know, the Jews, supposedly, I was taught as a child, that we are the chosen people. Well, where does that leave everybody else? And there are comedians, Jewish comedians in most cases, who say, well, would you please just choose someone else once in a while instead of us? Well, the other side of that is that Christians have been given the same benefit by Jesus Christ, who was Jewish. And he exposed the real truth and has already given it to the world, to anyone who wants to understand that they are a chosen child of God. There's no guesswork anymore, not even salvation. This Course in Miracles makes it very clear. We have a way to return to the love of God, to the peace of God. And that's what this is all about. That's what it's all about. That's why we're up to lesson 250 today. We're more than 2/3 of the way through the lessons of the year. And when we finish, guess what? We've gone around the mountain a few times. We're going to probably keep on going. And we might just do the lessons again. The next time, help teach them to other people who are just beginning to find out about them. Because you know why? It helps you learn it more deeply. Because the thought that Tom refers to is big, huge, deep. There is no dimension applied to a thought. You can't, other than say big, you can't say it's 3 miles big. You can't say it's 28 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay,
There
Papa.
is no
I'm
way.
going to wrap up the stream, buddy. We're going around
Well,
in
I'm
circles a
having
little bit.
fun, and I have things to
Say
do
hi
as
to your
well.
daughter.
I know.